Hey there, Alex Kidman with my quick video review of the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 2. And if you're thinking to yourself, hang on, when was the Z Fold 1 out? You're not going mad. There actually wasn't a Z Fold 1. This is the successor to 2019's Galaxy Fold. Samsung just likes the last letter of the alphabet, I guess. Like the original Galaxy Fold, this is a premium price device. And when I say premium price, I mean it. This is a $2,999 foldable phone, and that's a lot of money to lay down for any handset. It's definitely a luxury buy. Now, I reviewed the Galaxy Fold last year. You can find my review on the channel, but with that, I thought, hey, there's some really great engineering going on. There's some smart stuff, but there were so many limitations around durability and water resistance and the cameras and that tiny little external display screen. And for the sequel, Samsung has taken a lot of notice. They fixed an awful lot of what was wrong with the original Galaxy Fold. Not everything, but an awful lot. So what did I like? Well, let's talk the design. So what I've got here is the Mystic Bronze, you might call it Rose Gold, but Samsung calls it Mystic Bronze model. There's also a Mystic Black model here in the Australian marketplace. And it's certainly a striking colour, I'll say that. I'd probably go the Mystic Black if I was spending my own money. What I do like that they've done in a really minor design way is that you can get customised hinges. So this one just has the straight Mystic Bronze hinge, but you can actually get different coloured hinges to make your luxury smartphone buy really your own. The biggest design change, though, and the most welcome, is that front-facing screen. So it's now got a 6.2-inch display. And that sounds quite big, but the one caveat here is that it's big and tall. So you get this kind of elongated structure to the phone. And look, that is okay if you're scrolling a web page, workable for things like social media feeds, much, much less so though if you're talking about playing games, watching video, that kind of stuff. It's still way, way better though than the original Galaxy Fold, where that tiny screen was maybe only okay for notifications, not much else. You could use this as a phone. If you've got to whip it out of your pocket quickly, you can get by with that. Of course, the real star of the show is the 7.6-inch primary display. That's a much, much bigger display. It's a dynamic AMOLED display, 120 Hz refresh rate, and it's just really good, really useful, nice tablet display. Exactly what you want from a folding phone. I'm still a much, much bigger fan of this concept of here's a folding phone that comes out into a much bigger thing rather than your Z Flip or Motorola Razr option of a flip out phone. So that's the design. What about the cameras? Well, there's good news and there's bad news. So at the rear, you've got a trio of 12 megapixel lenses, and they're genuinely at the rear this time. They're genuinely at the back of the phone. The original Galaxy Fold kind of stuck them in a notch on the screen, looked a lot worse, acted a lot worse. This time around, you've got hole punches in both of the actual display screens, just with simple 10 megapixel selfie cameras, and then this trio of 12 megapixel lenses covering wide, ultra wide, and telephoto. All sounds really good. And look, for the most part it is. You can shoot some really nice shots with this. If you're not a particularly confident photographer, Samsung has this thing called Single Take. It's had it across its 2020 phones so far, and that fires up all the lenses and captures a bunch of video and a bunch of stills, and then you can pick from whichever ones you like the most. I wish it would give me the option to say, hey, this time around I just want to shoot stills, or this time around I just want to shoot video. Instead you get a mix, and it's usually a little bit more heavily tilted towards video than I'd like, but it's all pretty capable stuff. Low light performance is pretty good. It all works fairly well. On the hardware side, it's an interesting one because here in Australia, the Samsung flagship phones that we get tend to run on the company's own Exynos processors, but this runs on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865. Now, that's their current flagship model chip. Of course, it's 5G capable, but it's not the way we tend to see Samsung phones down here. And the really interesting part there is, historically, the Snapdragon chips have tended to be more powerful, but use more battery life. The Exynos chips, less powerful, better battery endurance as a result. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. This is certainly, benchmarks, running apps, whatever you choose to name, a more powerful device than Samsung has released in this year. And that is exactly what you should get when you're going to be dropping $3,000 on a phone, after all. One thing I particularly like with this phone is using it as a gaming device. It's not exactly what Samsung sells it as, but it just does a really, really good job of it. I'm a bit of a fan of pinball games, so you can see me here playing Zen Pinball, but it'll run anything you like. Of course, like the original Galaxy Fold, you can also do lots of split screen stuff, and you can have floating windows. You can go quite nuts with this stuff if you like. There's app continuity, so it'll fold through to the front of the phone for single selected apps only, although you do have to configure that. It's not an automatic thing, and that might take you by surprise first time you hit it, but all of that works quite well. So what do I not like? Well, battery life could be a little bit better, and I'm looking at that in the perspective of what the Galaxy Fold did originally, because on that phone I could get really quite good battery life, especially for such a large screen phone. This is a little bit more challenging. I think it's just the additional power it brings to bear. It's a much, much better and more capable handset. A lot of the classic Fold problems have not particularly been changed. So it's still a plastic substrate screen. It's got that flexible glass stuff that Samsung does underneath it, but it still feels unusual under your finger. There's still definitely a bit of drag there, and it can get scratched a lot more easily. Equally, there's no water resistance. It's just not as durable as any other Samsung or other flagship phone. So that's a bit of a challenge. There's no storage expansion either. The model sold here in Australia has 256 gig of storage. There is a higher capacity model, but that's really select markets only. What about the new stuff? Well, on the camera front, look, the camera is actually quite nice and capable. I like it, but I can't ignore the fact that it is a less capable camera than you get, for example, on the Note 20 Ultra. And that's a phone you can pick up for $1,000 less. That's not a small amount of money, and I can't help but feel if you're going to have this big flagship shiny phone, you put the best cameras you can possibly make on it. And they just haven't done that here. I'm not even really sure why. Then there's the new hinge, and I like the fact that the mechanism under that new hinge is really cool. There's some great engineering there that's meant to minimize dust ingress. It's also really stiff, and that's a bit of a mixed mode thing, really, because, look, a stiff hinge is good because it means that the phone will be a lot more durable over time. It won't fall open, it won't break as easily, it'll last you a good amount longer, which, again, you want on a phone that costs this much. The problem, though, and I'll demonstrate here, is that I've got a phone like this and I want to open it, and maybe my other hand is busy or whatever. And actually getting it to physically open with one hand, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of resistance there. It's really rather tricky. Now, if you go two-handed, yep, absolutely. And admittedly, again, this was true of the Fold 1 as well, that noise that you get when you close it up, that's a lot of fun, actually. But it's still a bit of an issue for if you're pulling it out of your pocket and you want to do things quickly. It's got the classic Fold issue as well, that when the phone is actually open, if you get a phone call, the only thing you can do with it open is take it on speaker, or if you've got headphones on, you could use those, I suppose. If you want to take it in that kind of classic by the side of your head fashion, you do have to close it and then hold it up to the side of your head. So, should you buy one? Well, look, honestly, this is still a luxury buy. Foldables are still a luxury item, and that means for the vast majority of people, no, this is not a great value phone in that context. Samsung has a whole range of really rather nice phones. The S20 FE is looking pretty good. The Note 20 Ultra is probably my favourite of theirs this year for most people in flagships. But if you do want that luxury kind of buy, yeah, this is a really good phone. And actually, I'm going to say this is the best foldable you can buy right now. I'm not personally a big fan of the Z Flip and Razer concept thing of flipping it open and having that smaller phone. That doesn't really do it for me for the amount of money they want for those phones. If they were much cheaper, different story. And that puts this up against basically the Huawei Mate XS. Interesting device, the Mate XS, but that whole Android limitation and the way the screen works is not quite as compelling, I think, as this. And also, of course, this is still cheaper again than the Mate XS. So if I was buying that kind of phone, and don't get me wrong, I'm not on that kind of money, but maybe you are, I would buy the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 2. It does foldable as well as anything else does, and in a lot of ways better than anything else this year. Anyway, that's my take. What do you think? Anything else you'd like to know about the Z Fold 2? Do you think foldables really do live up to that purchase price? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.